Hello, ladies. Welcome to my live. We are cooking together tonight. So, if you are catching me live, I would love to know if you're here with me. Of course, it's always nice to know that you are watching along, or maybe you're even cooking along. I'm sure a lot of you are cooking for the holiday tomorrow. So, welcome to my cooking show tonight. We are making my famous, and when I say famous, it's famous because everybody who has this cheesecake loves this cheesecake. And there's definitely some tricks that are not in a traditional cheesecake that you're typically used to making. Hey, Barbara. Hi, Brad. So, I have a question for all of you. Who out there are experienced bakers? And then also, I'd love to know, are any of you intimidated about making a cheesecake? Because I think this cheesecake, hey Michaela, is really easy and surprisingly easy for how good it is. So I make this every year for Thanksgiving and for Christmas time. Hi, Joni. And my family loves it. My daughter, Lila, it's her favorite dessert, so I always have to make it for her. But everybody loves this cheesecake. I have not played around with the recipe very much in the sense of adding things to the batter, so I will say that. But I am doing something different tonight. So this will be, I'm going to put my light on. Oh, there I am. Okay. You can see me a little bit better there. Okay, Barbara bakes a lot. I like to bake too. I would not say I bake a lot because I will eat it. So we're going to get started on this recipe. So I really only bake this time of year. I enjoy baking. But I tend to not bake very often throughout the year because I will eat it and I don't want to eat all that sugar. So what we're going to start off by doing is for this cheesecake, and I will happily post the recipe for you afterwards, you will need a springform pan. If you don't know what a springform pan is, it's a pan that detaches on the side. I always apply, put this together and then place it on top of a cookie sheet. So when you put it in the oven, just easier to handle. The oven is preheated to 350. That's step number one. I did grind up some graham cracker crumbs. You can buy graham cracker crumbs pre-ground, but I just bought the packages and I took two of the big square rectangles out and I ground them in my food processor to make them all ground up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start making the crust first. So I'm going to add to the crust. I already have pre-measured. I have a tablespoon of really good cinnamon. And if you've caught any of my videos from the past, like last year, you have probably heard me talk about cinnamon. I love cinnamon. And I'm just going to add a stick of butter. This is not health food tonight. And the thing about cinnamon is that the cinnamon you buy in the grocery store is really usually not real cinnamon. So it's cassis. And real cinnamon is so much better. So if there's nothing else you take away from this tonight, one of my best baking tips and cooking tips is to invest in really high quality cinnamon. And the place I like to get my cinnamon from is called Penzi Spices. The cinnamon comes in bags like this, or you can get jars. They have, I think, 4 or 5 different types of cinnamon. They have Ceylon, they have Vietnamese cinnamon, they have a cinnamon blend with all of them combined. It's called their Penzi blend. They have Indonesia and they have China cinnamon. So they've all these different cinnamons from all over the world, and they all taste very different. And the Vietnamese cinnamon is the strongest of all the cinnamon. So if you love cinnamon as much as I do, and you are an avid baker, invest in this really good cinnamon because you will be so happy you did. So all I did now is I added a tablespoon of the cinnamon, a stick of butter to the graham cracker crumbs, and you can see it's all mixed together, really easy to do. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna press this into the springform pan. You don't need to worry about buttering it because there's already a stick of butter in the breadcrumb or in the graham cracker crumbs. But what I wanted to also do is give you an idea for changing up your cheesecake. So this is traditional cheesecake base crumbs. I have made my cheesecake by, instead of making the graham cracker crumbs traditionally, I have made chocolate chip cookie dough, chocolate chip cookie dough base for the cheesecake. So I just made my favorite chocolate chip cookie dough recipe, homemade, of course, always better homemade than the store-bought stuff. And then pressed the chocolate chip cookie dough in the bottom of the springform pan as my base, and baked the cheesecake that way. Oh my goodness, it was like a heart attack on a plate, but everybody loved it for sure. So I'm just taking a ramekin, and I'm just going to, I can't really see this very well, but I'm just going to take, let me see if I can put this over here so you can see it a little bit better. Can you see that better? I'm just taking a ramekin. There we go. Okay. And I'm pressing the ramekin. I'm using the ramekin as the base of the crust to make sure I can flatten it and kind of press it slightly up the sides of the springform pan. This will ensure, number one, my fingers don't get as messy, but it just makes it more uniform, and it helps the crust stick to the sides of the pan better because you can press it in with the ramekin, and it makes it more even all the way around. So just take your time and do that, and that way I don't like a real thick crust on my cheesecake, so I used just 2 blocks of just regular graham cracker. I just used 2 of these and ground them up. You can certainly use more if you like more of a crust base, but I think this is plenty, and it gives you just enough to kind of press up on the sides. There are different size springform pans. This one I'm using is a slightly larger springform pan than my other size, but they both work fine. I kind of like it because it kind of just gives the cheesecake more room to cook. So if you have I think it's like a 9x13 kind of type pan, that will work just fine. This one's slightly larger. So all I did was press it around, and then that's all I'm doing. So now what I'm gonna do is with the same crust, this is my twist. Before I get to the cheesecake part, I'm changing my cheesecake up to this recipe. So I love apple pie. And if you didn't see my apple pie recipe I posted on Instagram last night, you'll want to go ahead and check that out. But I already made an apple pie this year, so I'm not going to make another apple pie. But I have a boyfriend who saw a recipe for cheesecake that really liked the idea of this cheesecake recipe because it was apple and caramels. So what I'm doing is I'm making my cheesecake recipe, but I'm adding that twist to the cheesecake. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna add the apple layers to the bottom of the cheesecake. I'm just gonna lay them to the bottom of the cheesecake, and I'm just sliced up 1 Granny Smith apple, and I'm just gonna lay them around the bottom of the cheesecake, like a thin layer. And I'm just laying them around because this is gonna be at the bottom of the base, all the way around the cheesecake. And I'm gonna add a caramel sauce next on top of these apples, which will be at the very bottom of the cheesecake batter, like I said. So I sliced the Granny Smith apple really thin, and what I did was, another tip for you, is I let the apples just soak in some water so they wouldn't brown while I was waiting to get on camera with you. So if you need to prep some potatoes for Thanksgiving, or even prep the apples that I'm doing right now, if you slice them in advance and you just put them in some water and then drain them right before you are finished, you can see they're not brown. So that's a really great tip that it will help save you time if you don't want to add lemon, because I didn't want to add any lemon juice to my apples because I don't want lemon flavor in this cheesecake. If you like lemon, you can certainly use lemon on your apples, but I just didn't want that flavor in my cheesecake. So I'm just laying all the apples on the bottom of the cheesecake pan. Let me show it to you. Like a single layer like that. And then what I'm gonna do is take about 3 tablespoons of really good caramel. And you can make your own caramel, but there's such great store-bought caramel that you don't have to do that. So I have a bourbon caramel sauce, because what's better than bourbon? And then I also bought just a regular caramel sauce, but I'm using the bourbon one. And I'm just gonna pour some of it over the apples, on top of the apples. About 3 tablespoons is what it calls for. I'm just gonna eyeball it because it's caramel. Who cares if you have extra caramel on the apples, right? It's delicious. So just kind of drizzle it all over the apples. I did warm this up beforehand because it makes it a lot easier to do the drizzling if the caramel is warm and not cold right out of the jar. And I probably should have warmed it again. just to kind of make it a little extra easier for me to pour. But the warmth of the caramel will help it pour a lot easier out of your jar. And then I'm just gonna let that sit on top of the apples while I make the rest of the cheesecake. So again, just any kind of a caramel syrup that you like, or I prefer real caramel versus like the ice cream toppers. The ice cream toppers usually are just kind of fake stuff that are not as good. So that's as easy it is. It's not easy. Hey, Lisa Ann. Hi, Laura. How are you? Hey, Donna. So now what I'm gonna do is make the cheesecake batter. I have my KitchenAid here, and this cheesecake batter is so easy. So I have 3 eggs already cracked, and it's always best if you cook them at room temperature or bring them to room temperature first. So I just have 3 eggs in there. Sometimes I add 4 if the eggs are kind of small. So if you feel like you have small eggs, just do 4, but 3 eggs, 3 full eggs. And then to the eggs, I'm gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I already pre-measured it, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. 1 cup of regular white sugar. I already pre-measured that, okay? The sugar is not that much, which is good. And then, this is the key, really good vanilla. So when it comes to vanilla extract, I'm a vanilla extract snob. So I believe in, first of all, the company Penzi Spices makes a great vanilla extract. It's double strength. I think double strength vanilla is the way to go. I also have the Pampered Chef double strength Madagascar bourbon vanilla, which is really good. And then I love using in cheesecake the Madagascar vanilla bean paste because you can see the vanilla beans in it. So for this recipe, it calls for 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and I think vanilla adds so much depth to a baking recipe. So I'm never worried if this one's actually running a little low, it looks like. I'm just going to use the regular one. So I'm going to use the Pampered Chef regular vanilla, but normally the vanilla bean is really nice inside this recipe because you can see the little bean flakes in the cheesecake since it's a light color. So I'm just adding 2 teaspoons of really good vanilla. This is double strength. Double strength means it's double strength. And I'm just going to mix this very much on low. You don't need to overmix this batter. You want the batter to be very light and very airy, and you don't want it to be overmixed. Overmixing this cheesecake batter can make it a stiffer cake, and you don't want that. The nice thing about this cheesecake that's different from the traditional cheesecake, it's very, very light in the sense of it's airy. It's not that super like New York style dense. It's very creamy. No, creamy is the right word. It's very creamy. So I love how creamy this recipe is. And I'm just mixing it till it mixes all together. And that's it for that first step. Next, here is the trick. And this is gonna forever change your cheesecake making history. My first time ever sharing this with the public. Well, you're not public, you're my friends. And that is, most cheesecake recipes call for a block of cream cheese. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that kind of cheesecake. This cheesecake, you're gonna buy whipped cream cheese. The whipped cream cheese is the key ingredient in how great this cheesecake comes out. Well, one of the key ingredients. So what you wanna do is make sure that when you buy the cream cheese, you buy the whipped cream cheese. It's lighter and more airy. And you're gonna use 2 8-ounce, let me see, make sure. This is 2 8-ounce containers of whipped cream cheese. You know, I don't really find it matters too much on a brand. I just usually buy whatever I grab first or whatever's on sale. But if you have a preferred like Philadelphia cream cheese brand, certainly use whatever brand you like. But the key is whipped. You can get whipped in the store brand, and you can get whipped by Philadelphia cream cheese. So 2 containers of that goes into your mixer. And what we're going to do next is mix that together, and then I'm going to put the final ingredient in this cheesecake. And the final ingredient is an additional ingredient that makes it really creamy and yummy. And then all we're going to do is pour it into the cheesecake pan and bake it for 50 to 60 minutes. I usually bake it for 55, and then I have a great tip for you on how to make sure your cheesecake doesn't crack. And it's a step that you're going to want to avoid. Initially, you're going to not want to do it because you're going to think it's going to make your cheesecake cook longer or just, whatever, but it's not. It's going to make your cheesecake so good. So all I do now is mix the cream cheese, 2 containers of 8 ounces of whipped cream cheese. Now remember, because it's whipped cream cheese, I'm mixing this on a very low setting. You probably could get away with doing all this by hand if you really wanted to. I just like using the KitchenAid mixer and do it on a low setting, so it doesn't, I make sure all the ingredients are mixed really well. But it's super easy to do. The ingredients are all basic ingredients. And I like to call this health food, quote unquote, because there's eggs, there's cream cheese, so it's not really, I know. But, I'm just telling myself that. I'm only kidding. I'm totally fine with eating cheesecake. All right, the final ingredient that makes this cheesecake amazing is a 16-ounce container of sour cream. And don't skimp on like that fat-free stuff or that, low-fat stuff. Get full regular sour cream, and put the whole container in there. And I did let this all come to room temperature first. If you can do that, it's helpful for the ingredients to mix better together. I have done it where I haven't let it come to room temperature just because I know sometimes you forget. And, you have to get it done and you just haven't done it, and totally fine. It still cooks just fine, but it does just mix a little easier if everything is more room temperature versus right out of the refrigerator. So room temperature, 16 ounces of regular sour cream, and all I'm going to do is mix it up, and we're ready to cook this cheesecake. Easy, right? How many of you are going to try this cheesecake recipe? I promise you, if you make this cheesecake recipe, you're never going to be able to make another cheesecake ever again the way you used to, because this thing is so good. Everybody loves it. My friend Donna's on. Donna, isn't this the best cheesecake? Everybody always likes this cheesecake. It's the best. So I got this recipe when I was in college. My best friend and roommate, so get this, when I was in college, my maiden name was Sarah Gill, and my college roommate, her name was Sarah Gildersleeve. What are the chances? We didn't know each other. She's from Connecticut, and her mom made this cheesecake, and she gave me the recipe over 20 years ago. And I still have the one she printed off. Look how beat up it is. I still have it. And I hope I never lose it, because I love having that little memory from college and from, my learning to cook this cheesecake over 20 years ago. The recipe originally had said to beat it with a rotary mixer, like a hand rotary mixer, and that's never going to happen. I actually think I did buy a rotary mixer when I first started making it 20 some years ago, but it's not necessary. As long as you don't over mix the ingredients in your KitchenAid or your hand mixer, you're fine. So don't worry about that. So I'm just going to make sure everything is mixed up together and I didn't miss anything in here. Sometimes the ingredients like to sink to the bottom of the bowl. So I'm just making sure the eggs mixture is all mixed into the cream cheese. And I'm just gonna pour it into my pan over top of my apples. The apples is a new thing for me. I haven't tried this yet, but it's gonna be delicious. And I'm gonna bake this for 55 minutes in the oven, in a 350 oven. And then what I'm gonna do is you're gonna let it completely chill. So some of the egg mixture in the bottom isn't mixed in all the way, so I'm just making sure. I'm just folding it. I'm just folding the mixture around, just make sure I got all of the stuff that needs to be together. So after I cook this for 55 minutes, I am going to let it chill fully before serving in the refrigerator overnight for sure. And the final step to this recipe is to apply some caramel apples on top. So I'm not going to make the caramel apples on top, but I'll tell you how to do it, just because they need to be placed, tomorrow before serving is the best way to do that. So all I'm going to do is pour this over top of my crust and my apple mixture, and make sure I get all of this out. You know what a pet peeve of mine is on those cooking shows? Does anybody else have this pet peeve? When they bake or cook in front of you and they leave all kinds of stuff in the pot or in the baking bowl, Nope, I'm getting every drop of it. You gotta get every drop of it. I don't have one pre-made. So I'm getting all of this out of the mixing bowl. That's a total pet peeve of mine when I watch cooking shows and they leave all kinds of goodness in the bowl. It just drives me crazy. So, does anybody else have that pet peeve when they watch a cooking show? I don't know. I know my sister does. So I know I'm not alone. My one sister, Jennifer, can't stand it either. So you got to get all that in there, all of it, every last drop of it. Okay, so now it's in the pan. We're ready to go in the oven. Let me put it in the oven. I need a towel. Okay, hold on. Let me get my towel here. So I'm just going to put this in the oven for 55 minutes. And I'm going to tell you a couple other tricks and tips. So I'm going to put this in the oven just like it is. Set it in the oven for 55 minutes. Okay, I gotta time it because I'm gonna lose track of time. Okay, 55 minutes. Okay, timing it. So I want to give you a couple tips. After it's done cooking for 55 minutes, it's gonna still look jiggly. You're gonna think it's not cooked all the way. It is. Here's the trick to make sure that your cheesecake never has any cracks in the center or around the cheesecake. When it's finished cooking for 55 minutes, you're going to turn the oven off. You're going to leave the cake in the oven and just slightly ajar the door. Just leave the door like this, okay? And you're going to leave it in the oven it was just cooking in with the oven slightly ajar for another hour. Just let it sit there. And then after that hour is over, then take it out and leave it on your counter to finish cooling. And don't put it in the refrigerator until it's completely cool, and you will have a perfect cheesecake that never cracks. So that is my trick. That is a tip. I mean, it's well known in the baking world, but maybe you never heard it before. That is my trick to make sure you have a perfect cheesecake that never cracks. So now, while that's cooking, I'm just gonna tell you what I'm gonna put on this tomorrow. I'm not gonna make it now just because I wanted it to be fresher, but basically I'm just going to, while it's cooking, I'm going to combine an apple or two with some cinnamon. I like to use a lot of cinnamon, so I'll probably put a tablespoon of cinnamon in there and some water. So the water is going to be, how much water? It's, let's see here. I'm going to do, or the topping. It's 2 apples. I'm going to do 2 hot apples. I'm going to do probably a teaspoon of cinnamon, a half a tablespoon of water. I'm going to put that together, peeled, and bake it in the microwave just so it's soft. You want this to be kind of more like a soft topping, like it's cooked. And then I'm going to mix a half a cup of caramel syrup with it and then pour that over the chilled cheesecake before serving it. And it's going to be a caramel apple cheesecake. Doesn't that sound delicious with that base of the apples in the bottom? Now, traditionally, I don't do that. Traditionally, I make the cheesecake just like I showed you, where I do just the crust and the cheesecake filling, and then I usually make some sort of fruit topping like strawberry puree or blackberries. Hi, Patricia. I do something like that traditionally, but this I'm trying with the apple since it's Thanksgiving and my boyfriend wanted it. So I'm being creative right now. We'll see. It'll be great. I'm not worried. But I also wanted to give you this other idea for a crust. I told you at the beginning that I've tried making the cheesecake with a cookie dough crust. I just make my favorite chocolate chip cookie dough, make that as a crust, and put that on there. I do pre-bake the cookie dough just a little bit, like 5 minutes, and then put the cheesecake on and finish baking it the rest of the way. It's very, very rich that way, but it's delicious. It's like a heart attack on a plate. But I also thought, I got this inspiration last night. I was going to try it today, but I forgot I had these. This would be these, what are they called? Biscoffs? The Biscoffs cookies that you always get these on the airplane when you travel someplace. This would be another really yummy cheesecake crust bottom. So I would just do the same thing where I would mix these, grind these up with like a tablespoon of cinnamon and a stick of butter, and you could use these as a base. You can really use any type of cookie as the base that you love, but I bet you this would be really good. And if you've ever had these before, these are just really, they're European cookies. They're so yummy. So that's my famous cheesecake recipe. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below or just direct message me. If you would like the recipe in full, just message me and I'll send it over to you. I already have it typed out and pretty for you that you can keep it. But I hope all of you have a very a happy Thanksgiving. And I know Hanukkah starts in a couple days too. So those of you who celebrate Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah to you. But tomorrow, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you all enjoy your time with your family and friends. I'm going to a friend's house for Thanksgiving, and I am bringing the cheesecake. And I am bringing cheesecake, and I'm bringing sweet potatoes, because sweet potatoes are my favorite Thanksgiving side dish. So I'm making those and bringing those over. And my daughters are going to New Jersey to visit their grandparents. So that's my Thanksgiving weekend. Keep an eye out. You guys that are live with me tonight, get your first little notification. Make sure you check your inbox tomorrow night. I have a special Black Friday sale for you. So I'm turning Black Friday pink. So it's now Pink Friday. And you'll want to check your inbox, your email for that special tomorrow night. It will also be posted in this group on Friday morning. So keep your eyes out for that. And you guys that are here live are the first to know about it. So happy Thanksgiving, ladies. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoy the recipe. I hope you try the recipe. And if you do, I would love to know what your thoughts are, because I know you will enjoy it. So I would love to hear your feedback. Have a great night. Thanks so much for watching.